everyone, let's give a warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Abhishek Ranjan. Hi, Abhishek.
Hi, Yvette. So we can start?
Yep, we can start. We're ready to go.
Okay, great. Okay, just a second. Share. Hello, everyone. This is my talk on bringing digital services to 1.3 billion people. So it's all about how it all started. That we came across the Cloudstack application software and the cloud software, and then we had a discussion, and probably that is where we struck wrong with Giles and Yvette, and then we decided that we should bring a keynote onto the collaboration conference, and that is how I'm here. So just on a background, I'm Abhishek Ranjan. I am the Chief Technology Officer at CSC E-Governance, which is a part of the Ministry of IT, Government of India. And it's an organization with it's a completely different mandate. Like it's more like a socially inclusive program, and it's more into capacity building. However, the entire capacity building is being delivered through an IT platform, and all the services being delivered electronically. On this session, I'll take you through how and what we do at CSC, and how we are running things, and how we are collaborating people, engaging people, and building a vibrant ecosystem of people delivering digital services on a platform which we built on Cloudstack as the core of our private cloud. So I hope this audience is completely international. I do see that there are a lot of people who are joining from India, and there are a lot of people who are from other countries across the world, and we see a very, very wide participation. And I thank you all for joining this session again. So before I could actually get onto the conversation, I would like to give you a brief of how our country is organized, so that you can connect to us to what we're trying to do and how we're doing it. So as we all know, India is the 7th largest nation in the world, and the population is whopping, and it is the 2nd most populous country in the world. So by luck, we are like that. And it's the population at present, it is approximately 1.38 billion, of which the country is equally, you can say, viable in terms of it's got a range of population living in the urban areas as well as the rural locations. So probably out of which almost like 65% of the population does live in the rural locations, which we call the villages and the other areas. And however, if we talk about the country's organization, we are states organized into like states and union territories of there are 8 union territories and 26 states. However, if we talk about large metro cities like London and all, we have got 8 large metro cities and 65 smaller ones, and approximately 700 tier 2 cities, or you can call them small towns. But however, the heart of India again lives into the villages, which is approximately 663,000. So that's a huge number, and you got a maximum number of population living out of the villages. And as we know that the governance is also included. See, the whole idea of bringing in CSC was designed as a thought process by the Government of India, where it thought of that it should have a kiosk or a representation of the government building office at the nearby, within the citizens' nearby locations. So probably it could be the villages where mostly the people live across. As we go ahead, we see that most of the population, as you know, are living in either the populous areas or the most prosperous areas. However, in terms of the prosperous areas, where we see that the outreach is not so good, so we see a lot of people residing in such locations, and they have a tough lifestyle there, and availing those several access to government welfare programs and other services was very, very nil until this program was launched. So we would just cover up a few more things while we proceed. So however, as we talk about the population, we see the population is almost like a mix, and a fairly good gender ratio of 48% females and 51% of males, and a good network penetration of the mobile network, which is a very, very good sign in terms of today's date, as we are able to deliver a lot of electronic services, for which we definitely require data. And the most easiest way to carry data is the mobile networks today. So as we proceed, so in the year 2015, the government of India decided to launch a program called the Digital India Program. It was a flagship project, and it was laid on a foundation that it would encompass all the shortcomings, which is mandatory a requirement for the well-being of the citizens and providing easy access to good healthcare, education, different services, as well as livelihood and other welfare programs the government is delivering to the benefits of the citizens. So, however, to make those things outreachable, the whole program of delivering electronic services was not getting that jolt since it was started in the year 2006. However, the government decided that we should bring it together and bring more of the infrastructure side as well, and work on the infrastructure side as well as the application side. Like, as you know, that there are several government applications which require benefits and programs, and which were earlier built on and running on paper-based models, would require a conversion to an electronic format. And likewise, the focus on manufacturing and as well as the capacity building and skilling of the rural folks, so that the participation could be equivalent. However, to get all these things in turn together, it was required there has to be an arm which is at the center of the focus, which is able to deliver such services across the country without building a superb network of front-end service delivery kiosk. And today, that is where the foundation lays, and where this is what we call the common service centers, which was wholly designed to build and deliver electronic services to the remotest of the locations in the country. And the advantages were superb. Like we say, it's a mission mode project which was created, and it was a physical facility. So, however, it was started way back in 2006 with a mandate to have at least 1,000 kiosks all across the country. However, the penetration was not that, the penetration could not be so worked out as the way it should have been. It did not work the way it should have been. So the program was rechristened, and it was called the CSC 2.0 program, wherein in the year 2015, we saw around 100,000 kiosks, and approximately like 28 million e-transactions were happening. However, since during this entire geography of distribution, or the timeline of distribution of services, we saw that many of the government services also came along, and along with the government services, it was also observed that the government services were not viable enough for fulfilling or the fundamental well-being, the operational well-being of these kiosks, which were turned to be a profitable centers, because this was built on a PPP model, where identifying that the person who's going to operate would be the person who's going to own this center, and he would be delivering services to the citizens as a front-end service delivery operator, and whom we call them the village level entrepreneurs. So that is why we call it we term it as a capacity building project, so that altogether all the users who are across working around, they are termed as that they want to serve the people, the community across. And then at the same time, they also make a living out of the system which was built for delivery of services, and at the same time, they could also do a better life and also generate employment in the rural locations. So likewise, since 2015, when it all started, there was a huge demand that how we do make it a more viable, a more transparent, and a more efficient system. So, and considering the options of the connectivity across the country, so it was decided that we build something which was scalable enough to cater to the volume of people that we have across the country, and at the same time, considering the data speeds or the data bandwidths that were available. So we designed a complete system from ground up, building the entire application stack and the infrastructure. So where we choose Cloudstack to build the infrastructure, and on top of it, we build the entire application stack for the service deliveries and all. And that is where we started curating these services all together. However, since the inception, CSC has been a key factor of bringing in a lot of different domains and verticals of services across, not just including the government services, and so that to make these locations economically viable as well. So it was, we started including programs like business segments, including the insurance. We also did a lot of education services, which I'll be talking about in detail as we go further in the slides. And that is like how we see. However, all this model was all built to so that it eliminates the multiple visits of a citizen to the nearest government office, and it makes the whole transaction completely user-friendly, transparent, cost-effective, and convenient to the citizens, and all the service being available across the counter. So that was the whole model, how it was built together. So as far as the coverage, we talk about the coverage. So the CSC ecosystem is a vibrant community of the village level entrepreneurs, which stands at like 467,000 today, of approximately 84% males and 16% females. And we see that the participation among the rural folks is more, because the whole idea of building the CSCs was to have a more focus on the rural areas and not the urban segments, because the urban areas are already considered to be like more well off with the you can say the self-mode self-service access to services and all. And with this total digitalization that we see in these days, in the modern days, that most of the apps, most of the applications, you can always work on a self-service mode. So that is where, and this whole idea of building the assisted mode of service delivery was actually launched for the rural marketplace, wherein the citizens were not that digitally enabled, and that is why that is how it was all thought that we could have a lot of network access in the rural areas and we could facilitate the people. So however, just because not only of delivering the services to the citizens, it was also considered that CSC should be a complete ball game of bringing a transparency and bringing a completely inclusive digital society across the country. So as we say, like the penetration is more in the rural areas, we see that we average out like approximately up to some 2,000 rural citizens. We have one CSC center in the country, of which, if you also see the geography distribution in terms of numbers, we see that 18 to almost like 50% of the people who are operating such kiosks lie between the age of like 18 to 30 years. And we also see a lot of people who are more than 50 plus, and even we see 70 plus people operating such CSC kiosks and serving citizens in the nearby nations, in the nearby locations. Catering, and so we also do a lot of statistics on how to study the viability of such centers. We see that a lot of people are doing a lot of services across, and as they do services, it is most important to understand that how many citizens are actually availing or visiting a CSC center, and what kind of to avail such services, and to support or to like so we have categorized those kiosks or the VLEs into 3 or 4 different categories. However, if we say like people serving more than 1,500 customers in a month, or somewhere like serving between 700 to 50, likewise classifications there. So approximately we are reaching somewhere to like 137 million citizens every month across the country, serving those digital services. So as we cover forward and we move ahead, looking forward to the services and the kind of services that we have across in the CSC centers. So it not only covers up the government services, and it also covers the business services. We do a lot of work in education. We do a lot of work in infrastructure building. We're also participating in the e-commerce, the rural e-commerce, bringing the rural goods and services to the urban marketplace. So this is overall landscape, you can say that how the CSC system is organized. So as we talk about the government services, so primarily the whole idea of getting the CSC center was to make the government reach out to the citizen, rather than allowing one person to reach out for a basic government service, to avail a basic government service. He or she has to walk or to visit or travel somewhere like 40-50 kilometers every day, or for one single service delivery. So however, the whole idea of converting that and bringing that center in front or nearby to your neighborhood, the idea was well found, and then how it all started. And when the people started walking in initially. So as we said that, as I said, that it started off with the government services, but since it was not economy viable for the VLDs, we also included several other services. So like there were key services like the government, the government scape that we talk about. Today we are able to facilitate passport applications. We are also able to facilitate your income tax, PAN, birth certificates, even a land record transaction, transport services. You have to go for a voter ID, the election services, and then again for the UID services, wherein again, which is the digital ID of the country, where CSC is also engaged in enrolling citizens into the digital ID program, the national digital ID program of the country. And again, today, if we talk about healthcare, there's another program which is called Ayushman Bharat, which is all designed to bring in like insurance coverage to the underprivileged people in the country, so that they could avail better healthcare facilities at the cost of insurance. And the whole project was funded by the government. So bringing in and enrolling people into the healthcare program was also one of the mammoth tasks, and CSC has played a very fundamental instrumental role in getting all these projects rolled out in the among the citizens, and making the outreach to the last mile. So that was the whole idea of getting many of the government services. However, to make the systems more viable, and since once you get things or the communities to be more prosperous in terms of getting themselves engaged into digital services, that is where, to bringing more business services, we also included utility bill payments, insurance services, travel, telecom, and a lot of other space. And we think about the service that is today, that definitely is available in the CSC network. So coming back forth, and then we had several programs for the insurance. We have the financial inclusion also was one of the most important programs under the CSC belt, which was like bringing in basic banking services to the unbanked locations. As I said, that most of the locations which we talk about are totally the unprosperous. The prosperity level is not that high and not so good. And we see a lot of people like the banks, as you call, to avail a basic bank or to even open a bank account, you would have to like travel again 40-50 kilometers to reach out to the nearest bank. So just to facilitate that model and get the bank, so the whole idea of building a business correspondent model was built over, and that was what the financial inclusion program was about, wherein we identified a lot of people and among the VLEs who would term in turn act as a banking correspondent and go forward and reach out to the nearest to the citizens and make those banking services available to them. Like the basic banking services would include your opening a basic bank account, which is a no frills account. At the same time, allow you to deposit cash into your bank, get a cash withdrawal, and also do a balance check or even get a mini statement. Apart from it, there were pension services for the old age pensions, other welfare programs where it was designed that people could be facilitated with pensions and such welfare programs. The benefits had to be delivered to the citizens, and that is where the VLEs again, the CSC network comes into the picture again, and they would a citizen could walk into the nearest CSC center and just authenticate himself using the digital ID that we have, which is called Aadhaar today, and he can authenticate himself and get the benefit transferred to his bank account or even withdraw as cash by the business corresponding handing over the cash to the citizen. Likewise, as I said, that these were the core fundamental programs where CSC was engaged. However, seeing and leveraging the ecosystem, it was decided that we should also enable healthcare facilities, since again, the healthcare also does not have a very superb penetration in the country. And that is where telemedicine programs, remote diagnosis programs, and even for telemedicine for the vet or the livestock was also enabled in the CSC system. And that has been very popular among the citizens. And we have seen like people coming along with the cows or the livestock to a nearest CSC center, going for a telemedicine session, and where a remote vet doc would actually evaluate and diagnose the problem and suggest for the basic medicines, and that could help the well-being of the livestock, such people. Same way, we also, the CSC would also enable agriculture's programs supporting the farmers with literacy programs related to quality farming, including understanding the soil quality assessment, uses of the ureas or the plant growth regulators and all, which would facilitate a better crop reap. And at the same time, we also facilitate for the crop insurance, which is again the government program, where it covers the insurance of all the agriculture produce that is happening, the mainstream agriculture produce of the farmers, and they're covered for a very, very liberated, minimum cost. It's just a participation cost by the farmers. And that is also very, very huge, largely very popular program in the country. Likewise, as I talk about all these services, so since as we went on to these services, it was also equally important that the citizens would also be trained for education. I mean, they also be trained for digital capabilities, to enhance the digital capabilities. And that is where the education program was also leaped into this as a part of the CSC portfolio, wherein it was a program again mandated by the government, wherein it was decided that we would be going out and training 600 million people into digital literacy. So that involves empowering people, teaching them with basic computing skills and enabling them to be digitally literate so that you could use those ICT devices and mobile phones and the computers, and they can operate it easily, understand basic financial management. And there's also some legal courses coming in, and a lot of other things on which was of interest, like somebody's trying to do some robotic course, and we're trying to bring in, and we have done a lot of partnership with a lot of front-end organizations. We also had a Udemy program running in, and we've seen participation of the rural people from the rural locations participating into programs like robotics or even drone flying, to be very precise. And that we have seen that people also like applying for a pilot license, for a drone pilot license to the CSC network. So all these things are being made available. And likewise, since we're doing all this stuff, then this came that since there's a lot of India's, as we know that India is a diverse country and a lot of diverse producers there. And then again, a lot of forest producers also there. So that is where we started off with the e-commerce program during the pandemic last year to enable and facilitate home delivery of goods and basically groceries. It was actually started to do grocery delivery, but however, it went on and we explored further, and we started collaborating with the local people through the VLEs and trying to gather those farm produce as well as the forest produce, which they collect and they sell off for a very, very meager price. However, baking them into an agri product and collating them into a platform, digital platform, and getting their product being sold to an urban market at a much higher rate and price, which makes more sense for such vulnerable people in the country. So as he said that we talked about the education program. So there are several initiatives which as CSC we have taken up, and like the most prominent ones are the digital literacy program, where I said that it's a mandate to train about 60 million people in the rural India and train them, give them certificate, take the digital examination, and it's a completely digital platform which runs from a very, very near bandwidth, the low bandwidth, where the person is educated into a classroom program, and again a remote proctored examination is taken, after which upon successful completion of such examination, such certification, a certification is awarded to the person participant, and which is for the digital being digitally capable of operating a computer, basic computer courses. We can talk about that. And similarly, we also had health insurance programs. As I said, that the Ayushman Bharat is one of the largest insurance programs, health insurance programs in the world, which covers approximately 35, 33, 34 million people in the country. And these are like enrollment again, wherein we have to get people, you have to enroll them, get into a system, and also support them for the claim processing and likewise. So The pension schemes are again one of the important programs for the welfare schemes. These are all the welfare schemes which I'm talking about, wherein the DBT, the direct benefit transfer, also comes in. The direct benefit transfer again is like providing subsidy. Like India also pays a lot of subsidy to its citizens, and many of these subsidies are also given were earlier given in kind, and now they are directly being routed to their bank accounts, and that is all being done through electronic platform called APBS, which is again the using the digital ID that India has, the national digital ID. So everybody, and like there are programs in the country which is called rural employment guarantee program, where under which you are allowed to get at least 100 days of work and you are paid for it. So almost like all these payments today are happening directly to the bank accounts rather than earlier giving it cash. So all these transactions are just done through your digital ID and they transfer directly to your bank accounts. And this is done centrally at the national level. And however, just wherein the CSC comes in again, the CSC really would again come into the picture, facilitating all such people availing banking facilities to avail or withdraw cash from their bank accounts. Likewise, if we go for the insurance, as I said, that we do a lot of farm insurance. Farm insurance again is a very, very huge marketplace, and we cover almost like 35 million farmers, and the sum assured value also crosses somewhere like 1.7 trillion value Indian rupees of sum insured value. So, and this is a very, very large program. It is celebrated like you can say a festival by many of the farmers, and you would see that they would come in huge groups, get their produce insured, so that because default of rain and other things, like supported of the best benefit is given to the farmers. So as we move ahead, I don't have much to show in terms of like on the presentation, but I'll just briefly give you a view of how we started out the journey in the last 5 years, what we've seen. So in the last 5 years, we started off in the year 2015 as a CSC 2.0 project, where it was decided that we rechristen the model, rechange or re-engineer the entire model of the CSC's operational system and get more involvement or engagement of the VLEs into the system back. So now that is where we started off. We at that point of time, at the earlier model of the CSC, we had approximately like a mandate of having 100,000 such kiosks or 100,000 such people working in the network. However, we saw that actively there were only 80K people, like 80,000 people who were trying to work onto the system doing transactions. And in 2017, we did somewhere like 52 million transactions in a year, and approximately you can say 192 million US dollars. However, as the outreach, we started more and more propagation of the CSC systems, and a part of our ICT campaign of training such people, educating them on the benefits of the program, and which actually turns into a livelihood system for them, so that they can also have a they also generate rural employment. And so that is how, and that also catapulted, and bringing in more services, newer government programs resulted in a lot more number of transactions, lot more participation in by the people, and a lot of other users getting involved into the system. And in the last 5 years, we've seen that the transactions have reached approximately like 280 million. And these are all those financial transactions which we're talking about. However, if we take up the other transactions, some as the biometric authentication transactions or the Aadhaar authentication transactions, they would also add into some another 80 million transactions into the whole. However, if we talk about the business volume, we see in the year that we closed this year in the March 21st, see in the overall lockdown period, what we imagined, we thought that the entire system is going to go slow and a lot of people would be finding it too difficult to work upon. However, we saw that our businesses or the businesses of the individual VLEs also rocketed into multiplied time in terms of, like we say, we did $1 billion US last year, closing this March 31st March. The financial year in India closes April to March, so we talk like April to March. So we saw the number of transactions also boom into a lot more numbers, and the participation by these kiosks also like increased to a very large extent. So in terms of numbers, these are all I have. However, we have several other engagements where CSC is also working, like setting up Wi-Fi hotspots all across the villages. And we have somewhere like 20,000 villages where we have established Wi-Fi networks using the BharatNet project, which is getting the digital optical fiber network to the nearest pop location in a village, and from where they'll be extended to a Wi-Fi. And we're seeing people doing, and I think like almost if we talk about like these 300, 400,000, 100,000 VLEs, we would see like many of them are like 50-60% of them would be socially active on Facebook and Twitter. So we see that the rural is completely changing, and we see a lot of inclusive people getting more inclusive into the digital systems. And I see that the digitalization is also working for a lot of, and we see that it's an inclusive growth for the entire country. So that is all I have, I think, in my presentation. And I really thank you all for watching. And I would be open to questions if you like to have, or you like to share something else in a later time, we can do so as well.
Thank you very much, Abhishek. It was a really impressive session. A few comments here on the chat. Some people who are also from India are sharing that a few years ago, the whole idea for Digital India was something which was looking not quite possible. So can you tell us a little bit more what were some of the biggest challenges you needed to overcome, and what is the future of the project? What do you have on the roadmap?
As I said, I'll just share my screen back, and I'll just take you back to the screen where we had that Digital India thing. So probably you will have a better clarity. I hope the screen is again visible to all. And as I say that the Digital India program was a program which was like designed to get build the overall infrastructure in the country. Not only like it was it's a propaganda, or it's like an advertisement, or it's a name program that we're going to have this, we are going to do this and like that. But it was a complete three-dimensional program in making things inclusive so that the entire program would be a success. And however, it might not be visible to a lot of people, but if you really see, as I said, that CSC itself, we are setting up Wi-Fi network across the villages in the country, and we have almost like done some 25,000 villages in the country today, which are Wi-Fi networked by CSC, and it's a subsidiary of our organization which does that job. However, we see that penetration of mobile networks is almost like you can see only in the hilly and the difficult regions we don't see such connectivity. But however, if you see, we have almost like a 1 billion mobile phone subscriber base in the country, so which actually says that the connectivity is actually successful. And coming to the e-governance or the government applications we talk about, so wherever you live in the country, you have to really go down to your nearest government office for any of the other things which you require. And it might be just your house tax, or it might be just a registration of your property, or even for a driving license. There's a lot of other things which actually is required on a day-to-day basis for a lot of stuff. And that is how most of these applications which earlier worked on a paper-based model were actually converted to an electronic format and getting them into the electronic format. However, again, as I say that we said that almost like 60-65% of the population lives in a rural location. If we talk about, we would see that 50-60% of them would not be digitally capable of availing such services on a self-service mode. So again, that is how this assisted model of service delivery came in front. And then we saw that the participation, or the most of the government programs getting converted to electronic format, and many of the services which are being delivered by the government today are being delivered completely in an electronic system. Like if you talk about the birth and death, it's completely electronic, though you may get a paper-based certificate somewhere, but at the end, at the back end, is definitely digitalized. And likewise, as I said, that manufacturing, we see a lot of companies coming in the picture, a lot of companies doing manufacturing of IT equipments and IT goods, mobile phones, watches, smartphones, smartwatches, and a lot other stuff. And again, as we talk about the capacity building, which is again one of the most important aspect of having a very balanced development across. So we see that there's a program called the National Skill Development Program, which holds a lot of program. And CSC also collaborates with the NSDC doing such programs for skill building. And it includes like basic courses, not only just computer courses, but also capability development programs, so that you can, which are basically job-based programs, so that you can learn and you can train yourself and get a job, like a mechanic program or a draftsman program. There are a lot of things which are, and there are many of them are actually done with the participation of the industry, and some of them are industry sponsored as well. And likewise, as I said, then again, the service delivery, which is actually one of the pillars, CSC is one of the pillars of the Digital India for the delivery of electronic services delivery. So that is how this whole program is built up. So the mostly you may have heard of the initial challenge, but I think post that JAM movement, which is the Jandhan, that is the banking, the digital ID, and the mobile network came in together. And I think that happened somewhere like 2018, where we saw a lot of propagation or the rise in the delivery or of the program. We saw that the success of the program was multiplied in the year 18 and 19. And we saw that it was really successful as of now.
Thank you very much, Abhishek. We definitely see that there is a huge value and huge impact of the whole digitization program for the whole population of India, and that's delivering services in a more accessible and easy to use way. One of the questions which our community is asking the most is why you actually decided to use Cloudstack and why you selected it over the competitors. Of course, please don't share everything, because for our participants, you have an entire talk on Friday, which will talk about your Cloudstack usage. But if you can just give some hints and a short part of the story.
Okay. So as I said that we decided to rebuild the entire system from scratch in the year 2015. And that is where the CSC 2.0 program was also launched. And we had to build something where we could scale up to 1 million kiosk operations in the country. So the whole target is now to reach approximately almost all the villages in the country. We should have one CSC center there. So that's the whole idea, that we have presence in the entire country. However, to serve such a large volume of users and a consumer, we thought that we need to build something. You can always build an application, but at the back of the heart of the application, you have to have your infrastructure really deliver well. And that is where we started choosing up the different cloud platforms. So the first option was that we could actually go down to anything like a public cloud like Amazon. But yeah, we had our own governance problems and a lot of security compliances that was required. So we had to build something which was to be operated by us and owned by us. And that is where we started doing building up our system. And overall, the evaluation, we found that after buying such the hardwares, we felt that if we use the bare metal servers, we're going to waste the compute and waste the resources. So that is where we started exploring the cloud platforms, and we zeroed down on OpenStack. However, we found it too complex to handle. And that is where we thought that the Cloudstack was a better option. And we choose Cloudstack in a version 4.7. And since 4.7, we are to 4.16 now. And we've seen it has really paid off well for us, really performed well. And we had our share of challenges though, but yeah, I think it has really paid off well for our choice and the risk we took at that point of time. And we are very proudly, we say that we are a Cloudstack user today.
And one more question, have you had any failures so far, any services that haven't suited your delivery model?
Infrastructure failures we do have failures, but however, as I said that we have a full concept of building a DC and a DR. We just don't have one single setup. And we did a lot of investment in terms of the infrastructure that we built. So probably I'll talk in much details about in my next session, which comes up on Friday. But however, just for a gist of it, we have a highly available system at both the DC and the DR side. So probably I've got 2 sites where we have completely active setup now. So we are able to balance it out. And yeah, there are certain challenges, obviously, but yeah, they do come in times, but we are really able to come up over them as possible.
Thank you very much, Abhishek. Really inspiring, all of us. As I said, there will be a whole session on Friday, which will be dedicated to more technical details and how they're using Cloudstack in their production environment. Meanwhile, Abhishek, I want to use the case not only to thank you, but to invite you to our virtual lounge where you can take a seat. So if anybody wants to connect with you or have a chat with you, it will be really a pleasure for us to spend some time with us virtually.
Thank you so much, Yvette. And I thank you, everyone. I thank all of the listeners who are watching me and who are hearing me out. I really thank you all. And thank you for hearing me patiently. And if there's any question, I would be around on the Hublot platform. And you can definitely reach out to me. You can drop me a message. And I would love to reply them. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Abhishek. The next talk in our agenda will be about what's new in Cloudstack 4.16. So be sure you join the talk. It will be really exciting, and see you in the next session.